everybody. Oh, Zeta's coming in. I get to see Zeta. I get to see some people I haven't seen in a while. Yes, I love it. Hi, Zeta. I haven't seen you in so long. How are you? Oh, you look so cute. Oh, Natalia's got her girls here. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see some old faces, new faces, new names. I'm so glad you're here and spending time with me and spending time thinking about parenting. And later we're gonna have a Q&A session. So at the end, so I'd love to, you don't have to have your cameras on now, but later on, if you want to and you feel so obliged, later on we'll have a chat and you can have your cameras on. If you want to write in the chat actually where you're from, how many kids you have, and how old they are. And those of you who don't know, I'm from Los Angeles and I'm actually really from Oregon. But I've been in Los Angeles for 25 years, which seems like a lifetime. I guess that is a lifetime for some. And I have two daughters, one who's 17 and one who's 20. And I've been doing this work since Esme was 5, so about 15 years. I worked in public school for 15 years prior to that. I was a high school teacher and counselor. I was an elementary school teacher. So I have a lot of experience with kids and families and parents. And I guess I'm an old seasoned lady at this point. So if you'd like to write in the chat, please, and let's see where everybody's from. Um, Massachusetts, Tina, 3 kids, Hope Grace, 13 and 9, and JJ, who's 7. Cute. Eric's in Minnesota, has a daughter who just turned 21 this week. Congratulations, Eric. Wow, 21. That's amazing. I love it. Where else are people from? I would love to see you right in the chat. So we know Michigan. Amy's from Michigan, one daughter who's 4 and a middle school. Oh, you're a middle school counselor. Yes. Currently at school. So I am not turning on my camera. Fair, fair enough. Kimberly, California has a 10-year-old girl. Hi, Kimberly. Who else do we hear? My screen is Rosa from Transylvania, Romania. Oh my God, amazing. Wisconsin on Andrea. I have an Andrea, so I get confused when I'm speaking English. Um, is from Wisconsin and she's got Gigi. Watch my graduate every day. Oh, and 3 and 1 and 6 months old. Oh, you watch your grandkids every day. Sorry, I can't read very well, and the screen is hazy. You watch your grandkids every day who are 3, 1, and 6 month old. Amazing, Gigi. Good for you. I love that. My dad was super intricate in our raising of the girls. And so I so appreciate grandparents' help, and goodness knows we need it. Who else is here and where are you calling from and how many kids do you have? I'd love to know. If you want to write that in the chat, that would be fantastic. Anybody else? Okay. You can write it in as you come in. Again, my name's Michelle. We're going to get started. We're talking about, um, let me get the screen off here. We are going to be talking about growing up with emotionally immature parents and the long-term effects of that. And so I know many of us grew up with parents who are emotionally immature. I don't know if any of you have read the book, but it's lovely. And we're going to just take a little branch of that today. Growing up with emotionally immature parents, we're going to talk about what it actually does and what it costs us. And more importantly, what do we do about it now that we have our own children? You probably already know this term or this title of this book. It's all over social media these days, and so many people in the mental health space discuss it. Parenting experts talk about it. A lot of you have done the inner child work, either on your own or with help. A lot of you can recite the 4 types of emotionally immature parents, which are emotional, driven, passive, rejecting. My parents, I think, were all 4 of those, to be honest. And that's exactly why I'm not going to spend this training defining that diagnosis. Many of us already know this, and you already have that. What I'm going to do is something different. I'm going to talk about what it actually looks like to do the work daily in your home, in the middle of a meltdown, and not passing it on to our kids, because that is the part nobody's really teaching us or talking about it. There's a lot of naming and a lot of defining and a lot of saying, yes, this happened, but there's not a lot of application. How do I take the next step? So before I tell you my story, I want to ground us in something. The parents who raised most of us in this meeting were operating inside a paradigm. They were not just making this stuff up. They were following a model that had been handed down for generations and generations. Things like spare the rod, spoil the child. Children should be seen and not heard. Because I said so, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Most of us have heard one of those phrases, and some of us have heard all of those phrases. And if not just from our parents, just from society. So that generation believed feelings made children weak, that comfort spoiled them, that respect was something kids owed adults, not something that adults owed kids. They believed that mistakes had to be punished or they would multiply. They believed love was implied just because they had a roof over their head and food on the table. And they did not need to say it out loud. How many of you had parents like this? Leave a heart in the chat if your parents thought these ideas or some of these ideas. Leave a heart in the chat if your parents thought these ideas. Tina's a lot of hearts, Kimberly's hearts, everyone's hearts. Tim's got a broken heart. Me too. It is not uncommon. And this was not just a few parents. This was actually default. This was every grandparent's living room, every teacher's classroom, every coach's locker room. And inside that paradigm, an emotionally immature parent often did not look like the problem. They looked normal. They looked like that's what they were supposed to be doing. A father who couldn't tolerate his child's tears looked like a father who just didn't put up with weakness. A mother who needed her child to manage her moods looked like a mother who deserved respect. A parent who couldn't name an emotion to save their life just looked like a parent who didn't waste time on feelings. They had things to do. So nothing looked out of place. My own parents were in this paradigm. They were boomers. I grew up in a home where mistakes were not tolerated, where being upset was not okay, unless it was the parents, where the unspoken rule was you don't bring anything hard to this family. My parents didn't invent that. It wasn't something they were unique to. They were raised that same way. Their parents were raised that same way. They were emotionally abandoned themselves. And they were just doing what they knew. They didn't know any better. So, this is not a story about bad people or bad parents. This is a story about a real paradigm that exists in society. And the only way the paradigm changes is if someone, somewhere in the chain, decides to do the work. And I'm going to talk about that today because I think that's what's important. So let me know in the chat, what was the unspoken rule in your house growing up? Mine was never make a mistake. It's not tolerated, but only mistakes by adults are tolerated. Mistakes were not tolerated. Only mistakes by adults were tolerated. What was yours? What was the things? No feelings discussed. You spare the rod, spoil the child. Lots of that. Keep everything inside. Other things, great, Tim. Thank you for those. Tina, thank you. What other things were don't upset your mom for sure. Men don't cry. Lots and lots of pre thoughts that our parents put inside of us that we are still operating from. No child should be seen or heard. That's right. The upset child goes to her room, but the yelling adult never apologizes. Araminta, yes, that's the one for me. Deal with yourself when bigger sister's hurting you. Yep, for sure. All of these are so on point, and I don't think any of us are very unique. I think it's across the board. So here is what happened to me. About 2 years into my own healing journey, my oldest daughter, Esme, was correcting her little sister, Pia. Pia must have been about 5, and Esme used a phrase, a tone, a hand on the hip kind of stance, and my whole body went cold because I was not watching Esme. I was watching myself. I was watching the exact words I had used 100 times. I was watching what I had taught her. The cycle of behavior that my 8-year-old had adopted started and ended with me. Worst part was what I Esme was not original to me either. I had a mother who corrected and shamed. She had a mother who corrected and shamed. And now there was three of us. And I was watching a fourth. Four generations of moms correcting and shaming each other. That hit me so hard. And then I made a decision that this was where it stopped. So drop a yes in the chat if you've ever watched your own child do something to a sibling, to a friend, or to you, and you recognized it as your own behavior coming right back at you. How many people, right?
It seems like Michelle lost her internet connection, so let's wait for her to come back.
You're muted, Michelle.
Sorry, my internet just went down in my back.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Hold on,
You
let
were
me.
just saying write a yes in the chat.
Oh, yeah. So if you have ever seen your kid do something, the same thing that you've done, please write a yes in the chat. Oh boy, hold on. I can't get the chat up now. Oh no. There we go. Sorry, everybody. I had technical difficulties. Okay. So these kids are just holding up a mirror to you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to do something that's unkind. They're just doing what they've seen done to them. And I went to therapy for years and I spent years in the classroom before I had children. Years, like a lot of years. And I had read everything and I could name the patterns and I could explain development to somebody and I could explain attachment therapy. And when my own children pushed every button, I forgot what I had learned. None of it helped me. And that's not because therapy doesn't work. Therapy is essential. It's because knowing and doing are two completely different skills. And nothing in the world brings out the unhealed parts of you like having your own child have a meltdown in front of you on an afternoon at 5:45 when you haven't even had something to eat. The intellectual work and the somatic work live in two different parts of you. And connecting them is the next piece. So here's the reframe I want you to take home with you today. The goal is not to figure out what was wrong with your parents. We already know. You have probably already figured out what's wrong with your parents. The goal is not to keep proving to yourself that you're different from them because you are. The goal is to organize your life to help yourself make the next step, to give your child something you did not get. And the only way to do that is to reparent the version of you who didn't get it. Working on unraveling all of those unspoken rules from the past and the way your parents raised you. That's the work. That's the whole game. And even though it takes time, it's what makes the biggest difference. The transformation you get when you unlearn these patterns is so liberating for you and your kids. So if you want help with this work one-on-one, type support in the chat and my team will reach out today. No pressure, just a conversation. We'll keep going to help you get the support that you deserve. Now, when you think about your own parents emotionally, not your relationship with them, just emotionally, who they were for you as a child, what do you feel first? A, resentment, B, compassion, C, confusion, D, sadness, or E, something else, or maybe all of these. Perhaps it's everything. Write in the chat A. Lots of, oh, Ermita has a lot of A's. So does Tim. I think I'm all of these. D, Rosa said D. Yep, for sure. Anybody else? What else do you, A and D? Yeah, a lot of A's. And anger and hurt and resentment. Yes, a lot of resentment. All of them. Yeah, I'm with you. All of them. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it. Okay. There's no wrong answer in that. There's what I want you to know, that it's okay to feel all of these things. And some of us are oscillating between all of them, and I think it's normal. But here's what all four of these feelings have in common. None of them by themselves change what happens when your child melts down on a Tuesday at 5:45. That is the gap we're going to close. Let me give you some research because I think it's also important. The CDC study on adverse childhood experiences, one of the largest public health studies ever done in the United States, found that about 2/3 of adults reported at least one adverse childhood experience, and 87% of people who had one had at least another one. So, growing up in a home with emotionally immature parent is not a niche experience, it's all of us. There's also a body of research called the intergenerational transmission of parenting. Big words, but a very simple idea. It looks at whether the way our parents raised us shows up in the way we raise our children. And the answer, of course, we all know is yes. Patterns transmit, they repeat. They transmit in mothers, they transmit in fathers, they transmit whether or not you read every parenting book, they transmit. And here's the part that we don't really talk about. Across all that research, the single biggest moderator, the thing that interrupts the cycle most reliably, is not how much you know about your parents. It's what you do with what you feel when you are activated. Patterns are interrupted in the moment, not in retrospect. That is the work. Dr. Laura Markham, if you don't know her, she's lovely, and she's been on my podcast if you want to look her up. She puts it perfectly. She says, fear is what causes control issues. And when we are hurt and scared or sad, it's hard to have a positive attitude. So the parents who break the cycle are not the parents who have figured it all out. They're the parents who have learned to recognize their own fear in real time and not hand it to their child. And making that recognition is the work we do inside of Peace and Parenting. So here are 3 practices that we use that I want you to take a look at. Because I don't want you leaving this training and have another concept and not a tool. We're going to walk through these 3 practices. These are not theoretical. These are things to actually do in this order. When I catch the old pattern rising up in me, this is what I do. They're the same 3 things that I teach my clients. None of them require special equipment or therapist or speed dial or perfect weekend. You can do them this week. So let's do these things. The next time your child does something that makes your chest tight, notice that. When the heat rises and the words are forming, and you can feel the old version of you about to come out of your mouth, I want you to do one thing before you do anything else. Pause. But you have to notice the tightness or the clammy hands or the sweaty brow. You have to notice what's happening inside of you. And when you notice that thing, that's your alarm bell to pause and take a breath. And you have to ask yourself this question: what am I actually feeling right now? Why? That's it. That's all you need to make a difference. I have 4 questions I ask myself in those moments. What am I feeling right now? Why am I letting this push me? Why am I reacting? Why do I need to be angry with my child? And what do they actually have to do with this upset? Almost every single time when I ask those questions, the answer is not even about my kid. When I really get down to it, the answer is about me. The answer is some version of I feel unheard. I feel disrespected. I feel like I was failing. I'm fearful. My child did not put those things there. My child just touched them. The pause does not solve the trigger. The pause separates you from the trigger long enough to choose something else. That's the thing to do. So drop a yes if you have ever felt your child's behavior trigger you or trigger a feeling from you when you were younger? Drop a yes in the chat if your child does that to you. My child still does that. We see a lot of yeses. Lauren says yes. Stephanie says yes. Araminta, yes. Tina, yes. Rosa, yes. Amy, yes. Kimberly, yes. Of course. We all feel that. Rachel says yes. Annam says yes. Yeah, we're all there. Welcome to being a human being on this earth. This is the second practice, and it is one of the ones that parents often skip. You're going to mess up this week. I'm going to mess up this week. I mess up all the time. And there is no version of this work where you do not occasionally or often slip into the pattern you came from. The brain has decades of practice and decades of programming. It will happen. The thing that breaks the cycle is not perfection. The thing that breaks the cycle is repair. And here's what it looks like. After you yell or snap, after you say the thing your mother used to say, go back and find your child. Get down on their level and say something like, I lost my temper. It was not your fault. That was not about you. I was feeling so overwhelmed and I did not handle it the way I wanted to. I love you and I'm learning. That's it. Full responsibility. Mea culpa. This is my fault, not yours. And that's the whole thing. Repair matters. Most of us grew up in homes where adults did not repair. They got upset, they exploded, like my dad, and then everyone walked around like nothing happened. Or they walked around in silence and they shunned us because we needed to be ignored because it was our fault. So we learned that ruptures don't get fixed, they get buried. We never saw an adult say sorry to a child. We never heard someone else take responsibility for hard situations. And we often took the blame ourselves. When you repair with your child, you're doing two things at once. You're healing the moment and you're teaching your child that ruptures can be repaired. You're giving them a model for apology. You're giving them a model you didn't have. That is reparenting yourself and your child simultaneously. So drop a yes if you can count on one hand the number of times an adult ever truly apologized to a child or your parents ever truly apologized to you. Drop a yes in the chat if it wasn't very often, or maybe in my case, not at all. My parents never apologized for anything. One hand. How about one finger? Never. Araminta says, Lauren says, never. Tina says, yes, I try to do it often. I'm so glad. I'm so glad your parents apologized. Rosa says, yes. My dad, I think, apologized one time. Apologies were loaded with why we made them do it. I love that. I'm sorry, but it's your fault. That's a great apology. We hear that a lot. Yes, and still that way, in fact, says Stephanie. My parents too. My dad apologized once, and then I brought the subject matter up again, and he goes, oh, I thought we already took care of that. Why are you still upset? Well, it's okay. We move on. We learn from that, right? So the third practice is the one I want to spend a little more time on because this is where the deeper work happens. I want you to hear this phrase from me carefully. Childhood hurts. Childhood hurts are the wounds we carry, often unnamed, from how we were raised. They are the moments when we were not listened to, the moments when our feelings were dismissed, the moments when we were told in words or in silence that we were too much or not enough or wrong for feeling what we felt. They are not always big traumatic events. Sometimes they are the 1,000 small moments where nobody saw us. These hurts don't go away with time. They get buried and then they resurface decades later, the first time our own child hits that same nerve. The moment in the kitchen where your daughter looks at you with the exact face you used with your mother and doesn't listen to you, and now you don't feel heard. The only way I have found to actually unravel the childhood hurt is to slow down enough to feel it And the tool that has worked for me for decades now is journaling. And let me show you how it works. Okay, this is part of the training I most wish someone had given me when I was just starting out. So I'm going to give it to you. All of this you can find in my journaling guide, and we're going to put it in the chat for you so you can have it. When you journal, you are doing two things at once. You are slowing your nervous system down and you're letting the buried feelings find a path to the surface. Most of us have lived a long time at thinking speed. Journaling forces you to land. You slow down, the brain slows down, and the slower pace gives you time to feel. I have clients who haven't cried about certain things for many, many years, and they write them down and they cry and cry and cry and get to the feelings below what has happened to them. Journaling and writing can be magic because writing is slow, and slow is what buried feelings need. Okay, here's the rule of practice. When you journal about your childhood, and people make this mistake all the time, do not write about what happened. I mean, it's okay to write what happened, but what you really want to write is what you felt. The story is not where the healing is, the feeling is. So you can say, this incident, I came home late, and then talk all about how you felt. If you remember being 8 years old and being yelled at for spilling something, don't describe the spill. Describe what was happening in your body when the yelling started. Describe what you felt and what you wished an adult had said to you, because what you end up saying to yourself is what you end up feeling. That is where the unraveling lives. So here's how to actually do it. So you pick a time. I like the morning, maybe you like the evening. Find a place where it's quiet, a place that's yours. Pick a chair or a corner of the couch or outside. Pick one prompt, not a bunch, just one thing you're going to work on. Maybe it's sometimes I like to think about an incident, like that incident yesterday with Esme where I yelled at her. What was going on for me? Can I find something similar in my own childhood I can write about? Does it spark something from my own world? So here are some sample prompts. What did tantruming look like is always a good one. Who actually listened to you? And if nobody, how does it make you feel when you sit with that? And what would it have felt like to be heard as a child? These prompts will crack something open if you let them. Pace yourself. One prompt is enough for one session. Another good idea is my book. You can find it at unpunishedbook.com. And in each chapter, I have journaling prompts at the end of each chapter, and they're really, really good. So what if nothing comes up? A lot of people say nothing comes up because often our response to trauma is to bury it, and our body doesn't want us to bring it out. So you're going to have to really, really push yourself to get there. And that's okay. Just give yourself the time. Start with one image or one sensation or one word or one really hard memory that you have, and start to really journal about those feelings. And what we find is that other feelings start coming up, other incidences start coming up. And if you can do that today, just write one sentence. I don't remember much. Write that, sit with that, think about that. Why was that? There have to be memories in there. Tomorrow, try it again. And memories come back in trickles sometimes, or sometimes they come back in floods. It just takes time to be with yourself for them to show up. Some of you are going to write for 10 minutes and find a feeling that scares you. So stop, close the book. This is work, but it's not therapy. If something really big surfaces, you want a therapist or a coach holding it with you. We are unraveling here. We're not going to rip through it. There's a big difference. So drop a yes in the chat if you have ever started a journal at some point in your life and then said, this isn't for me. I'm not going to continue. How many have started a journal and then quit your journal? Yeah, Tim has. I have. And I go in and out of journaling when I have moments of things that I really, really want to work on. I used to journal every single day when the kids were little, and now I don't journal nearly as much when I should. How many of you do journal? Anybody journal? Yes, back and forth. Yeah, me too, back and forth. When I need it, I need it. I'm afraid my girls will read it. That's why I've not started. You can put it in your phone. Sometimes that's a good idea. Every day, Lauren, amazing. Yes, and I have trauma about your mom finding all and reading. Okay, lots of people with that. Interesting. My ex-husband made me stop. He thought it would be evidence against him if I died. Oh my gosh. Same, says Rachel, and I haven't started again. Okay, well, maybe this is a good opportunity for you to start. And sometimes people don't want to journal. Sometimes it's better to talk to somebody. Sometimes coaching can be a better way to get through it, to have someone hold your hand through it so you don't have to rely on the journaling. And if you are looking for coaching one-on-one and you need that support, please write in the chat support, because sometimes journaling isn't enough. So I want you to pause for a second and think about this. Think about the last time your child triggered you, the last big one. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Which pattern of your own parents did you find yourself doing in the moment? Dismissing feelings, A. Needing to be right, that's me. Number B, letter B, needing to be right. C, going cold and shutting down. I think I do B and C actually. And then D, big reactivity, the explosion. Actually, I probably do B, C, and D. And those are all from my lovely, love you, Dad. But yes, from my father. He was big on all those. A, C, D, 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 B. Yes, Kimberly. Tina says B, C, and D. Tim's across the board. PC is A, B, and D. Lauren C. Yes, a lot of that. A, B, and C, says Stephanie. I'm with you. I am so with you. I am B, C, D for sure. Maybe A too. I don't know why I'm leaving that one out. Okay. Whatever your letter is, what's your starting point is, that is where the work lives, because those things live inside of us, unfortunately. And if you really need support and you want to walk through this work with somebody, my team will reach out if you write support in the chat, and we will reach out to you so we can discuss one-on-one coaching. Okay, before I let you go, I want to leave you with somewhere to keep going. The journaling guide is amazing. We're going to give that to you. There's a link in the chat. Save it, print it, put it in your nightstand. Also, my book, Unpunished, unpunishedbook.com. Like I said, there's journaling prompts after each chapter that I came up with about that subject matter. And then we have podcasts. We Are Not Our Parents. That one is really good. The moment of recognizing the pattern and choosing something different. We also have another podcast, How Your Emotional Baggage is Hurting Your Kids. It's a harder listen, but it's a good one. And then a really good one to understand feelings is understanding big emotions and what to do when your child's emotions land in your body. Okay, here's my challenge for you this week. Pick one of the three practices, just one, the pause, the repair, the journal. Do it once. That's it. You don't have to do everything right now. That's how the cycle breaks. Not a grand transformation, but in one moment, repeated until it becomes who you are. Hundreds of repetitions. That's parenting. That's also reparenting. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't find your triggers and then say, oh, okay, I'm done with those. Let's put them to the wayside. I wish it were that easy. You don't choose the parents you grew up with, but you get to choose the parent your children grow up with. That is the work. That is the privilege of being a parent. That is also the heartbreak. That's the whole thing. Most of us were never taught this. We were given our kids, we are now giving our kids something we never had. And there's no more sacred work in the world, in my opinion, because we're growing the next society. We're growing the next generation, and it's our responsibility. Lots of people will say, oh, the kids these days, they're this, they're that. If the kids these days are this or that, that is our fault, because we cannot blame the kids. The adults are who's guiding them. So, one last time before I move on to questions, if you want to work on unlearning these patterns you've been carrying since childhood, the change you want to change things so your children don't go through the same thing that you went through. You need one on one support. Just drop support in the chat and we'll reach out to you and have a conversation and see how we can help you. You deserve the help. And finally, this is for people who want to do this work for other families. I'm still taking applications for my coaching certification program where I sit with a small cohort and I teach people how to be coaches. And it's for parents who've really lived this work and who want to walk with other families and help them. So if that's you, even just the mere thought of it, drop the word certification in the chat and my team will reach out. We only do this a couple times a year. So if you are a yes, I would reach out now. Thank you for showing up today for your kids by being here. That matters. Now, let's do some Q&A. I'd love to see your beautiful faces. And I'd love to know what you're thinking and what your questions are around triggers or on how to work with your own triggers or any of it. Oh, hi, Tracy. We see a lot of people. Hey, Tim. You got a question, Tim?
Stephanie posted a question just a few moments ago. What age were your kids when you started doing this work and
That's
breaking the pattern?
awesome. Thank you. Stephanie, that's a really good question. Esme was 5 and Pia was 3. But it took me years to kind of really get in lockstep with it. It was a lot of practice. I think the first couple of years were really difficult. And so I learned a lot in those first couple of years, but I started when she was 5. But we have lots of people in our community who start when the kids are 16 and 17 years old. But that's a really good question. Is the journal going shared? Yep. Any other questions, thoughts? Thank you, Stephanie.
I have a question.
Yeah, Lauren, hi.
Hi. Um, I'm just wondering, like when your kids were really little, like my boys are 2 and just 4, um, what was your like move for getting away? Because like I can get away now, but then like it's not safe. And my kids are really smart, so like they can get out of gates and stuff. So
Get away from them?
yeah, like to take a minute, like
Yeah.
um,
You need a break because you're overwhelmed or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah. I would lay on the rug right next to them. I would
Okay.
just literally lay on the floor next to them and try to breathe because I knew, like you, like I can't leave them alone. It's dangerous. So
Mhm.
I would let them lay on me, sit next to me, say, Mommy, please get up. And I would just lay there just for 5 minutes. I'm just going to lay here for 5 minutes. And I did that often during the day when I got overwhelmed.
Okay.
I would
Thank
try
you.
that. Okay. Any other questions? Thoughts on journaling too. I think journaling can be really a powerful tool, but I think a lot of people maybe like don't really get to the feelings part of it, or B, maybe aren't convinced that it's helpful. Any thoughts on journaling? Anybody have experience in journaling or want to talk about journaling? Yeah, Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean I do it a lot, but I also find that I kind of come and go from it like you mentioned, but
Yeah.
I find it's not really difficult for me to get to the feelings. I just don't know if I feel the relief afterwards. Like I still kind of get stuck in the same triggers.
Yeah.
And it's like years. I've probably journaled for over 25 years.
Yeah.
But I know it's not something that's just linear and goes away when you have adverse childhood experiences, but sometimes I find myself almost getting stuck in it when I journal and more
Yeah.
triggered because it's like I've resurfaced like
Yeah.
the difficult memories. I don't know. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, I can. I think you're right. I think that journaling does bring up a lot of stuff for us and it's hard to compartmentalize it, right? Sometimes it comes up and it can get right in our face and be too much in our ethos. I think it's important to get support then when we get there, that we really do need support to process, either in coaching or in therapy. There's like has to be a next step in listening partnerships. So if you're in our programs, we tell everyone to get a listening partner. And so that's like a next step to process the feelings. So I think that this is a good first step, but I do think you're going to need more support moving forward. And maybe that's either listening partnerships or coaching or therapy. Because if they're big triggers that keep bothering you, then yeah, for sure, you're going to need help processing those. I think also getting back to step one, just like recognizing like where do you feel it in your body? What's coming up for you? If you can make that recognition and at least move to not have your reaction, that will help your parenting immensely. But that isn't going to help you process the feeling completely, though, either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually think maybe that's my key point is identifying it right in that moment and just kind of having that pause, because usually I'm like right after the fact having the realization, but it's like not catching it in the
That's
right timing.
Yeah, but that's okay. You're there, right? You just have to feel. I always know, like, I can tell my chest starts to get hot and I start to
Mhm.
feel lightheaded. And I know when those two things are happening, I know I'm having a trigger. And so my job is to go to my pause, because whatever's going to happen is going to become from this very triggered, fearful place that I can't parent from. Thank you, Kimberly. That's a great question. Eric?
I just wanted to share that in my case, my journey, I was divorced 14 years ago now, and there came a time where I was journaling, I was going to therapy, I was doing I
Yeah,
was diving as deep as I could into my own upbringing and how I was parenting my own daughter. Um, in a divorce setting where our daughter was shuttling back and forth between homes, and we were doing all that back in those days. Um, I just wanted to share that there came a time where I'd done enough work where I was beginning to understand what I was doing emotionally with my daughter and where that came from in my own upbringing. And in my case, it happened, a lot of it initially anyway, had to do with my anger. And the exquisitely hard and painful place was I knew enough not to be angry, but I still was. I was in this in-between world. And yeah, it was to be aware of all that and still have it go on. So repairing with my daughter became extra important. Um, the other really hard dynamic, at least in a divorce, well, I think it doesn't matter, divorced or still married, is with our spouses. I was doing as deep a dive as I could. I, I, I think it's fair to say my spouse, at least at the time, wasn't.
yeah,
Um, and accentuated when in a divorce setting where our daughter lived half the week with me, half the week with her. I think looking back on that, that must have been crazy making.
yeah. Eric, tell me what got you to move your triggers.
For me, it was one day I'd done enough journaling, enough therapy, enough meditation that the intellectual understanding of, well, this is my dad and his explosive
Right, right.
anger. This is my mom and
Yeah,
her
yeah,
gaslighting, passive aggressive, there came a moment where I could embody it, not just intellectually
right.
understand it. And that kind of somatic understanding was
Hmm.
when I was capable of making different choices.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
could stop it. I could
Yeah,
say, I recognize I'm being
yeah,
triggered here,
I
But
think that's the big thing. That recognition that this is a trigger is what I think can move us to making the change, right? Yeah. Thank
there,
you, Derek. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Other questions about anything? It really can be about anything, anything in parenting. Yeah, Lauren.
I have a question about, so like I'm able to recognize and I'm able to like pause and not have the reaction that I was
Yeah,
99% of the time. Like I could do that.
that's
But
good.
to move from that to getting something done,
Yeah. You
like
mean
what is that? Like how do you get that?
you mean getting cooperation from your kids?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily I can like cooperation, like let's say getting dressed. Like
Right.
I can get cooperation to get dressed, but then to get himself dressed, to move from that feeling of like anger and taking my pause and not freaking out, but then to also be able to then push and get him dressed, that's where I like sometimes,
Get
yeah,
you
get
can't get him to get dressed because he's pushing back against it, or you're just in a bad state and you can't come to your parenting in a way that's helpful.
yeah, like I'm just not in a state where I can like
Yeah.
set the limit there and that it's going to be good. So like now I find like I'll just like help him because like I rather than freak out, I'm like, I'm just gonna help you. But then like I used to be able to get him to get dressed, but I
You
sometimes can't.
you can't. So I think you're right. It's a setting the limit type of thing where you're gonna probably have to set the limit, but the setting the limit is the part where then he freaks out because he's gonna want you to do it for him. And so that's probably the place you don't want to go because you're in this heightened state. And so I think in those heightened states, it's okay to help him, but
Yeah.
in the place when you're not heightened, you should probably be setting the limit so you can allow him to dress himself, but he's going to have a freak out. You're going to have
Mhm.
empathy for it. I understand. I know you want to you want mommy to do it, but mommy's not doing it today. And when the freak out is over, then we ask him again to get dressed and we just stay there until he does.
Yeah.
But
So
if
like
you're
in that moment, it's okay because I feel like when I'm in that state, I just can't
no,
get there.
no, you can't, and that's okay. And it's okay to help sometimes too, because you're not able to do the limit in that moment. You'll have another opportunity to do the limit.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Great questions, guys. So anybody else have a question?
I
Yep.
had one.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. I have a problem with rushing. It doesn't
Oh,
matter what time of
who
day
has a
I'm
problem with
rushing,
rushing?
and I hate myself for it.
I
I'm
know.
rushing from the very second I wake up until the second I'm putting them to bed. I'm rushing
This,
through getting them in bed. I just can't stop rushing, and I don't know how to stop myself. If you have any advice
uh-huh. I have a few
on
things.
slowing down.
First of all, was your mom or dad a rusher?
Oh yeah, both of them extremely rushy. Yeah. My
My,
mom still
yep.
drives like 60 miles an hour every time
Uh-huh.
she like it's just like always rushing.
Yep. And so I think that's a big recognition. We need to recognize that, right? That this isn't you. This is your parents. My dad would say, if you're on time, you're late. You need to be early. And so I was a huge rusher. And so I think there's some practical things you can do. One
Okay.
is make yourself be late a few times.
Oh,
Um,
I'm always the latest.
oh,
I'm
you're
late
the
to everything.
latest. Okay. So if you're the latest, then you're not afraid of being late.
I'm not afraid of being late.
Okay. I was afraid of being late. So sometimes people are afraid of being late. So if you're not afraid of being late and you're already going to be late, then why are we rushing?
Right, right. It's like
Right. I
it's
think recognizing that piece and really journaling about what it felt like when your parents rushed you,
okay.
writing that piece out. Like, how did it feel? And how does it feel now if your mom is still driving 60 miles an hour and she's still rushing? Like, how does it feel to be in her presence? What
Yeah.
is it like to be with her when she's rushing? And then you can really say, like, that's how your kids feel.
Yeah.
They feel like you felt as a kid. And what does that do to their what does that do to their brain? It puts their prefrontal cortex offline, their thinking brain. They can't think and they actually go slower and they become in this paralyzed state because they're so worried. And so I like to tell myself, like, I'm walking slow, I'm talking slow, I'm going to do everything slowly, I'm going to be late. I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care. So I think doing the journaling pieces and then finding when you're going to find your heat, right? When you're rushing, because this is a trigger. You're going
Yeah.
to find out whatever that is. You're going to notice this. And now you have to start doing this. I'm slow. I'm
Okay.
methodic. I'm quiet. I'm intentional because you want your kids to feel the exact opposite the way you felt when your mom was rushing.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we have a podcast on rushing. Maybe my team can find it or being late. I think there's a late podcast or something. If somebody can find that for me, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing. I'm Araminta.
Will do.
Thank you.
There's a question in the
Oh.
chat.
I never watched the chat. I'm so bad. What is your stance on teen privacy, phones and social media? Specifically, we've had trust broken in big ways in the past and having a hard time moving past that and trusting my kids are being safe online. It's a really big question. I'd probably need to know more and really dive in with you, but I have some very general thoughts I can give. If our kids are not being safe online, then there's places that we can talk to them about it that isn't scolding and isn't punishing and isn't restricting, because restricting usually is the thing we go to because that's kind of what was done to us. The first thing we want to do is take the phone away. The first thing we want to do is say, you can't have any more. You have to have these rules. You broke the rules. You're unsafe. You're this, you're that. And instead, it's a conversation, right? It's like, hey, this stuff is going on online. What's happening and why is it happening? And trying to get to that piece and really talking about the dangers of being online. But restriction actually makes kids sneakier. And so I think that's where we get caught, especially with teenagers. And I think they actually do deserve their privacy, but we have to be really careful and make sure that they have all their settings on. They understand what bullying is. They understand what online content, where it goes. And we've had lots of good, we've had 2 events on social media and electronics. I would look into those. And I think it's like a bigger conversation. I'd have to know more about your kids so we could really get in there and figure out what happens. But that's what we do in coaching. We really get into, because every situation is different, every child is different, and every family is different. So overall advice is great, but it might not be nuanced enough for you. And that's why coaching is so important. And if you want to do that, who asked this, just write support and we'll help you out. Tiffany, thank you. All right. Other questions about anything? Do I have anything else in the chat here? Let me look. Okay. Any other questions about anything in parenting? All right. I am so glad you guys came today. Thank you very, very much for being here. Your kids, thank you. They're very lucky. And I hope to see you somewhere in the online world. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you soon.
We can stop the live
Oh,
streaming.
yeah. Did I stop it? Yeah.
Did you stop it? I think we're still live.